Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to episode 73 of Be With Me. And we're going to talk today about how unsurprised Jesus is at the plot, the scheming, the betrayal that's going to be happening. And I'm going to call today the gotcha-lessness of betrayal. Here we go. It's Luke chapter 22. Read with me verse 1. Now the feast of unleavened bread drew near, which is called the Passover. So this is on Wednesday of the Great Week. And the chief priests and the scribes were seeking how to put him to death, for they feared the people. Then Satan entered into Judas called Iscariot, who was of the number of the 12. He went away and conferred with the chief priests and officers how he might betray him to them. And they were glad and agreed to give him money. So he consented and sought an opportunity to betray him to them in the absence of a crowd. So we see this plotting, this secret meeting that's happening. But my point at the end is going to be Jesus is not surprised. So here, let's get there by this. First of all, Jesus was one of the 12. He was one of the 12. And the disciples were surprised and still had Judas as part of their number. They were unaware of what had been going on with Judas all along. Jesus wasn't unaware. He said way back in John chapter 6 that some of you don't believe, and he knew this from the beginning. And he said, one of you is a devil and is going to betray me. That's in John chapter 6, verse 70. So Jesus is not surprised here. Maybe even Judas is surprised. Certainly the other disciples were surprised. Matthew tells us he gets 30 pieces of silver for this plotting. And that's 4 months' wages. It's about $7,500 in today's money. And it just tells you the disrespect that Jesus had from the authorities. I wanted to talk about the Satan entered thing. So there's this marriage, if you will, of Satan entering into Judas, but also Judas consents. He consents. He seeks an opportunity. He goes away. So there's all this volition that happens, and certainly the Lord holds him accountable and responsible for his evil actions. I actually had this morning, as I was thinking about this, some compassion for Judas, and it could not have been very pleasant to have Satan enter and to be influencing you in a up close and personal sort of way, and so much so that he eventually commits suicide. So a little bit of compassion for Judas. I wanted to talk about this betrayal, this denial. So Judas betrays him, but all the others, Peter denies him, and all 12 of the 11 remaining of them abandon Jesus. So they go from this celebration of the Passover to betraying the Lord. And here's my point for today, is that God was not surprised that this evil was being plotted against him. In fact, if you go all the way back to when Noah gets off the boat. So the Lord says, this is in Genesis chapter 8, verse 21, I will never again curse the ground because of man, for the intention of man's heart is evil from his youth. Neither will I ever again strike down every living creature as I have done. So after he gets off the boat, Noah builds this ark, or gets off the ark. He builds a fire and makes a sacrifice, and the Lord smells the aroma. And the question is the Lord going to accept the sacrifice? Because he knows that even though we'd think that the virus of sin that has infected man all the way from Adam, that, well, maybe the flood extinguished it. And we find out as just after Noah gets off the boat that nope, the virus is still active and it still infects mankind. And the Lord almost has to make a decision at that point, if you will, is, am I going to tolerate man in his sinfulness and that his heart is still sinful? And the answer is yes. Why? So that you could get to today, that Judas can betray the Lord, and that the Lord can send this rescue mission and fix this problem once and for all. So it's like that passage in Genesis 50, chapter 20, is, you meant this for evil, but God meant that for good. So that even though Judas has an evil intent and that has this evil authorship, we find that God is sovereign, and this is the last gasp of the servant before his head gets crushed. So what's the most difficult part of the crucifixion week for Jesus? Is it the pain of crucifixion? Is it the shame that he undergoes? Is it the mockingness? Is it the fact that the Romans are betraying their authority? Is it the fact that the Sadducees and the people who are the religious leaders betray their office? Is it the fact that the chief priest is supposed to act as this go-between between God and man, that he betrays his office? No. I think, this is a personal opinion here, that what was most difficult about the Great Week is this betrayal. And the point is that Jesus knew it was coming, not just in the last 3 years of his life, knowing that Judas didn't believe and that bad things were going to happen with Judas. He knew this was coming for thousands of years. He knew that the virus still infected mankind and a rescue mission was going to be necessary. So there is no surprise here. There's no gotcha at the end of the story when Judas shows up with the chief priests and the Jewish soldiers in the Garden of Gethsemane. There's no surprise there. And he hadn't even been waiting 3 years. He'd been waiting thousands of years for this. And it's almost like Jesus is saying, hey, I've been expecting you. I've been waiting for you. I knew all along that this was going to happen. So why? So that I can save you from the virus. So, in a perverse sense, all this betrayal that's going to take place by Judas is sort of good news for the rest of us. And Jesus has to go through this to free us all from this virus, which has been going on for 1,000 years in all the pages of our Bible. So I'm grateful today for the Lord, for his rescue mission, for saving us from this virus. And Judas is a bit player in it, in betraying the Lord. Thanks for listening. Stay tuned. You'll hear the rest of the rescue mission later.